Today I'm going to show you how to sew the easiest adjustable fabric crowns. These are so quick and very easy and beginner friendly to sew, and they take very little fabric. The best part about it is they are reversible and they fit ages 1 all the way to adults because of the adjustable ties here in the back. The printable pattern pieces for these crowns, I have 6 different ones, are in a link below in the description box, or if you're watching from our website, alohasewingcompany.com, welcome and sew along. Here's what you're gonna need. Go ahead and get 2 coordinating fabrics, one for one side, one for the other. You're also going to need some ribbon, 7/8 of an inch to 1.25 inch at most width. Or if you want to make the ties, I'll quickly show you how to do that too in a coordinating fabric. You're going to need the pattern piece to make those ties if you want to make those. And then you're also going to need the pattern piece for your actual crown, and I have designed 6. They all sew up the same exact way. Some have points, some have curves, some have straight lines. Optional, but if you want to add some structure to your crown, get some one-sided fusible fleece and attach that to the back side of one of your fabrics. With both of your fabrics folded with the right sides together, lay those folds of your fabric right on top of each other, lining your fabric up right there at the fold. We're doing this so that way you can put the pattern piece for whichever crown that you are making right onto the fold of the fabric. And if you have a directional fabric like I'm using here, I want Cinderella right in the middle, so I folded my fabric right in the middle of Cinderella and placed that there. Next, you just trace all the way around your pattern piece, and then you're gonna cut it out all at once with your fabric still stacked and folded together. Now let's open this up and I'll show you how to add the fusible fleece. Your fusible fleece has one side that's just like fleece and the other side's rough and bumpy. Those are actually little teeny pieces of glue that when you place that onto the wrong side of one of your fabric pieces and then you iron on top of that fabric, not on the fleece interfacing on top of the fabric, you're just gonna put your iron up and down all the way across it, and the glue of the fleece adheres to your fabric. I cut down my fusible fleece about 1 centimeter from what the pattern size is. Now let's work on adding our ribbon. If you're adding ribbon as your ties, you're going to cut to the length of the bottom of the crown you're making. Place it right mid-center of the bottom part of your crown fabric, and you're gonna place a basting stitch right there about 1/8 of an inch across from the edge. It's just right close to the edge. A basting stitch is just there. It's just a regular stitch that you can put there just to hold that in place. And don't forget, your fabric should be right side facing you. We're gonna do the same thing on both sides, and this is how it looks when it's all finished. I have 2 stitches right close to the edge there. Just clip off any excess ribbon you might have, and you're done adding your ribbon ties. If you want to sew your own ties, I'm going to show you how to do that too. You're going to cut 2 of these fabrics, and on one end, you're going to fold it down about 1/2 inch and press it in place. You're folding towards the wrong side of the fabric. Then you're going to fold your fabric in half, wrong sides together, and press that down with your iron. You're doing this part so that when you open it up, you have a long crease down the middle. That's a guide mark. Now bring the bottom of your fabric right up to that middle crease and press that with your iron. After you do that, you're going to do the same thing with the top part of this fabric piece. Now we're going to fold this in half one more time and press those 2 folded ends together. After you've done this, you're going to sew a straight line right close to the edge all the way down, closing these 2 folds together. I like to stay about 1/8 of an inch away from the side here. Don't forget you need 2. Now we're going to attach these ties the same way we did on the other crown, and it doesn't matter what crown you are sewing, you're going to do all of this the same way. Place it right mid-center of the bottom of your crown piece and baste those stitches to hold these ties in place, about 1/8 of an inch away from the edge. The raw edge side of your ties should be against the raw edge side of your crown. Now back to the crown that we were making. The next thing that we're going to do is, if you want to add any decorative ribbon or trim across the front of your crown, now's the time to do that. You can see here on this one, I had some rickrack ribbon trim that I just placed about 1.5 inches from the bottom raw edge of my fabric crown and sewed a top stitch right across the front. Now we're going to fold our ties so that they are right center in the middle of your crown. You don't want those ties showing anywhere around the edges so that you don't sew these ties on accident when you're putting these 2 pieces of fabric together. With the right sides of your fabric together, you want to go ahead and sandwich those ties in between, and then you're going to pin or clip all the way around your crown. I put 2 markings on the pattern piece on a place that you can stop and start sewing if you need a reminder, but you want to leave about a 2.5 to 3 inch gap across the bottom somewhere. Now we're going to sew all the way around your crown, leaving a small opening at the bottom. And I like to use a 1/4 to a 1/2 inch seam allowance. It doesn't matter either way. For some people, it's easier to line up the side of your machine's foot to the side of the raw edge of your fabric and use that as your guide to sew. If you don't have experience sewing around corners, that's okay. It's super easy. Get to your corner, make sure the needle is in your fabric, rotate your fabric with the presser foot up to the direction that you need to keep sewing, and then put your presser foot back down and keep sewing. Now here's another crown example. You want to make sure the ties are in the middle of your fabric, and then you're going to sew all the way around your crown, leaving a 2 to 3 inch opening at the bottom. To sew around these kinds of corners, all you want to do is make sure your fabric is always lined up nicely. Start sewing. Once you get to your corner, leave the needle in your fabric, lift your presser foot, and then rotate your fabric. Put the presser foot back down and keep on sewing. Now when you get to the bottom corner here, I like to place a small dot just big enough for me to see it, so that way I know where to stop my needle, because once you get down into that corner and that groove down there, it can be hard to see where exactly to stop. So I stop right there at the dot that I made, and then I keep sewing. Once you're done sewing this close, the first thing that you want to do is, if you have any corners on your crown, you want to go and clip those corners right up to your stitches. You do this so that when we flip this fabric right side out, those corners will poke out nicely and it won't be too bulky at those corners to be able to do that. If you're sewing this crown or one with similar angles like this, you want to go ahead and go down to where those are and place 3 small slits, so that way when we flip this right side out, those won't pucker up in those areas. If you have some big curves in your fabric, you want to do the same thing, clipping right up to the stitch but not through your stitch, so those curves lay nice and flat. If you have pinking shears, they are a godsend when it comes to projects like this. I like to just go ahead and trim down my seam allowance just a little bit using my pinking shears. If you don't have those, don't worry about it. It's not 100% necessary. Now, whatever fabric crown you are making, the next step is we're going to go to the hole opening that we left in the bottom, and you're going to go inside of it and pull your fabric right side out. Once your fabric's pulled right side out, you just want to smoothen out all of your seams. You can use a finger, a pen, whatever you have on hand. I always keep a chopstick on hand to help me do things like this because it's also really nice for poking out corners. Make sure you don't press too hard because you could poke right through your stitches. Now, once you've done that, bring it over to your iron and press this whole thing flat so that you can get out all of your wrinkles. The same time that you're doing that, you want to go to that hole opening right down there at the bottom of your fabric crown and press those open raw edges into the middle of your fabric so that way it makes a nice flat seam down here at the bottom. Now using about a 1 1/8 inch or a 1/4 inch seam allowance, so right across the bottom of your crown, this will close that hole opening and give it a nice professional finish. If you are feeling a little bit extra, you can top stitch around the top of your crown and all the way around it as well if you want to. If you are using ribbon for your ties, make sure that you either heat seal the ends of them to prevent it from fraying or fold it over a couple of times and sew the ends in place. So that way the ribbon ends don't fray on you. Now you are completely done. Whichever fabric crown you decided to make will all be this simple. The only difference is if you're going around straight lines or curves, or if you're going straight corners. But either way, these are the perfect beginner sewing projects, and they are great keepsakes. They're great gifts to go in with birthday party bags or party favors and stuff like that. And I love that they also fit little stuffed animals because my daughter loves to have ones that match hers. To get any of these printable sewing patterns for these fabric crowns or any other things, go to alohasewingcompany.com and you can print them off. I hope you enjoyed my sewing tutorial. Please make sure to like this video and subscribe to my YouTube channel. You have no idea how much it really helps, and you'll be notified anytime a new pattern is released, and that is super easy to follow because I gear towards beginners. I have patterns for children, for babies, for household stuff, for adults, clothing, all kinds of stuff. So make sure you check us out at alohasewingcompany.com. And before you go, mahalo.